Hello everyone, Jacquie Edwards here. We are trying again, so I'm home now, so hopefully my internet's better. If you tried to join me earlier today, really sorry about that. I was running a bit late, so I tried to actually pop into one of our HMOs. My property manager was there, so she was since she had her laptop, so I tried to do my live session from there. But actually, the reason that she was there was because the Virgin Media engineer was coming because the internet connection was so bad at the property. So I couldn't do my Facebook Live. So here I am a couple hours later, but hopefully got some great tips with you all around GDPR. So GDPR is kind of the hot topic at the moment. Today is the 23rd, so the 25th, so 2 days from now. Oh, yeah, is the kind of drop dead date. Everything needs to be up and running and in place, and you're supposed to be fully compliant with everything GDPR. And a lot of people, that's kind of making them wonder, will we still be able to send out our HMO letters? So your HMO letters are when you get the list of licensed HMOs from the council and you send them letters saying, I can guarantee your rent, all the amazing things that you can do for them, basically your marketing letters. But is GDPR the end of that? Will you no longer be able to market to those people? I am here to say, first of all, in summary, don't worry. I think that you can still market to them as long as you follow a couple of quick steps to make sure, in general, you've kind of assessed it, and then I think it's no problem. So let's take a step back. What is GDPR? GDPR is the General Data Protection Act. It's EU regulation all around data protection. So it's basically keeping people's data and their information secure and respecting their privacy. Personal data is anything that can basically identify a single person. So this means normally you're looking at like an email address. So if you've got joe@joescompany.com, that's personal data that can kind of identify a single individual. Whereas if you've got HR@joescompany.com, that's not considered personal data because you don't have a person's name. It could be anybody. It's basically a department. So, and it does cover companies. So, business to business is covered in GDPR. So if you are emailing or writing letters to a company, you still have to kind of follow the data protection rules. Now, it is EU legislation. Yes, we're going through Brexit and everything, but the UK government has confirmed that they will keep this legislation once we've kind of completed Brexit and left the EU. So GDPR is here to stay. We have had data protection rules in place here in the UK for quite a long time now. I've always recommended that you sign up with the Information Commissioner's Office. So ico.gov.uk, they are basically the UK's data protection police. So they are the ones that kind of monitor data protection at the moment and will continue to do so here in the UK. Their website has loads of super, super helpful information all about GDPR. So if you haven't, I highly recommend that you head there and check it out. So again, that's ico.gov.uk. Information Commissioner's Office. They've got checklists, they've got a couple of quizzes or assessments that you can take to see how prepared you are, and they give you loads of great feedback and advice and just places to go for more resources. So if you're just getting started in GDPR, that's a great place to have a look. Now, and register with them. It's £35 for a year, and I'd say that's your basically first step to showing that you're trying to be compliant with GDPR. Because as small business owners, we just have to show that we're trying to be compliant, that we're cognizant that there's this legislation out there, and that we've kind of done an assessment over our business. So that's after you've signed up for the ICO for the £35 a year, the next step is doing your assessment of what data are you holding in your company. What are you using that data for? Where is it coming from? And how are you securing it? So that's the next step. I would suggest setting up a simple table or a spreadsheet that basically says, here's whose information I'm holding, kind of general categories. So maybe it's potential landlords. And you've got that. Where did you get that information from? You got it from the public council's HMO list, available on the council's website. Then what are you using that information for? You're using it for marketing purposes. What kind of data is it? Basically, it's general personal data. So it's nothing super secure or sensitive, so you don't have to mark it as sensitive data. It's usually just names and addresses. You're not going to have email addresses. You're not going to have phone numbers. You're not going to have bank details. You're not going to have anything. It's just address and names. Then, so that's kind of your assessment of what do you have, where did you get it from, where are you storing it? So are you storing it in a filing cabinet in your house? Are you storing it on your laptop? Are you storing it in Google Drive? Where is it getting stored? Who's it kind of transferring to and from? Is it going outside the country for any reason? So just kind of making a note and kind of following your information trail. So it's all about documenting to show that, yes, you've done this assessment. Now, with your HMO letters specifically, a lot of people are really focused right now on the kind of part of GDPR that's focused on having to have consent to send marketing information to people. So while, yes, consent is one of the things that you need, there are actually 6 categories of basically ways that you can be approved to send marketing or send anything to people. Now, you probably won't have consent from the landlords if you just get the list of licensed HMOs from the council. You're not going to have their consent. Consent is all of those million spam emails, re-opt into my list for, GDPR purposes. And it's all those little tick boxes on websites. When you put your email address in there and say, I want to be on your newsletter, that's the GDPR kind of consent form. So you're not going to have that for your landlords because it's impossible to get it because it's just not going to work. So, but it's not only consent that lets you send messages to people. So again, there's 6 categories. I've just written them down here. So you can have consent. You can have a contract with them. So that's for like if you're with your tenants. So you don't have to have your tenants opt into, your marketing list if you want to send them information about the house they live in. Just by having that contract in place with them that they are a tenant, you can send them information relevant to their property and what they need to know about their house. So that's perfectly all right. If you've got a contract in place with somebody, you can send them information. If you've got a legal obligation, if there's a vital interest, if it's a public task, so that's kind of, your government officials and your council can send you information. And the 6th one, which is the one that's going to cover you for your HMO letters, is the legitimate interest. Now, this is where you've got to do another assessment to show that you've looked at it and you do have a legitimate interest to send these people your marketing information. Now, GDPR has loads and loads of gray areas, which is why I think we don't need to worry about it too much, because they're not after us, the small businesses that are just going about our day-to-day tasks. So what you need to do to show a legitimate interest is, again, there's 3 to do this assessment for each kind of category of people you're sending information to. So my thoughts, and I am not a solicitor, I'm not a legal person to be able to give you legal advice. So I suggest you do your own assessment. You consult with, a GDPR specialist if you need to. But this is all at your own risk. But this is how I'm doing things. So to have a legitimate interest, you need to do these 3 steps. So the 3 steps are, you need to show that there is a legitimate interest. Now that legitimate interest doesn't only have to be on the person you're marketing to side. It can be your legitimate commercial business interest. So that's what makes this just kind of a lot more flexible than I think a lot of people see. So I can show that I've got a legitimate business interest to send these marketing letters to HMO owners. It's my marketing. It's my business. That's my legitimate interest in messaging them because they have a property that I want to manage. They have, it's part of my business to be able to manage their property. So it's easy to show legitimate interest. Even on the other side, if you had to, which you don't have to show what their legitimate interest is, you are targeting them. You are offering them a specific service that could be of interest to them in managing their HMOs. So first part of the assessment is showing legitimate interest. The second part is showing the need to process their data to achieve that legitimate interest. So processing data includes storing it. So once you've got that list, you are storing their data, whether it's, in a filing cabinet or in your system. This is to show that you need to store and process their information to achieve your legitimate interest. Now, your legitimate interest is to market to them to get more properties to manage for your business. So you do have to process their data. You have got to have it in order to be able to send them that information. And again, because you've just got information that's, you know, not super sensitive, it's just their address and their name, it's easy to show that you've got the legitimate interest and that you need to process that information. So if you had stuff like their bank details, you wouldn't be able to show that you needed to process that information in order to send them a letter. But because it's just their name and address, you can show that you have to have that information in order to send them a letter. So you've got to process it. So that's step 2 checked out. Step 3 is that you need to balance those things, so your legitimate interest and kind of the need to process their data, against their kind of personal rights and their privacy. So you need to do that assessment to say, all right, am I invading their privacy? Am I, you know, impinging on their personal rights by sending them these marketing emails? Now, this is where you'll need to kind of consider it for your business and your personal thoughts. But for me, I don't feel like we would be impinging on their personal rights or their privacy, because this is publicly available information. They've submitted a license to the council. It's the same as submitting planning application. That is publicly available information. So it's either available publicly on the council's website. Anybody can call the council and get that information the same way that you did. So by you sending them a letter, you're not really invading their or kind of breaking their public or their privacy or anything, because it's publicly available information. Going to their house and knocking on their door, that might be a different story. So that probably would be going a little bit too far. But just by sending them a letter, there's no problem there. And then making sure that you can remove them from the list. So if they call you back or write you back and say, do not write to me ever again, do not contact me again, you are able to kind of delete their information and never message them again. So that's pretty much the basics. So really, you can keep sending your HMO letters. Their GDPR is not going to prevent that, as long as you've kind of taken the steps I've outlined. So you've registered, you've done your general data assessment, and then you've done the kind of smaller legitimate interest assessment to show that you've got the legitimate interest to be able to send them the marketing materials. So hopefully you found that useful. Hopefully this video has come out a lot better than my previous one. And sorry for those of you that joined live earlier today. Yeah, hopefully you'll be able to catch up on this video. And thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you again next week.